Alright, this is another video to Heithel Day, basically, and anybody else. Now, I don't really like to talk about free will, but the way I use language is I'd like to concede to what other people, use to a certain degree, because we're also debating what's the definition. Free will, well, nothing's absolutely free. The will is constrained. If you will yourself to fly, you're not going to fly. Some people believe you would if you figured out the right way to will it. I don't. I think we're constrained. I think even things that we could physically do, excuse me, we won't necessarily do because of constraints of, I don't know what you'd want to call it, cognitive momentum, things that repulse us. It's just not going to add up that our neural network is going to decide that. Even if you had a faint idea, I want that to happen, that's not strong enough because it's, thoughts are energy, for there to be an option to go both ways. We always feel like we have a lot of different ideas of what we might do. And for us to actually be able to choose both doors, we have to be kind of indecisive. Or like an old dilemma for skeptics. Skeptics caught between dying of thirst between two glasses of water that are in equal distance. You have to be in a situation like that where they're close enough to equal, as far as you can tell, to even be free enough to make a decision. So I don't like the term free will. I like willpower. I do believe there is willpower. That seems like the odds-on thing, but I understand that we could be a purely mechanical where one frame leads necessarily to the one decision that leads to the next in this only one possible path sort of way. Now, I think you can decide which door to go through. And I'm going to describe why I think that and why it's hard to escape that and why you can't just dismiss it because you have theories about an eternal world that you can't even prove isn't the Matrix, but that makes you think something that you have an experience of, actual evidence, every moment is an illusion that should be ignored, okay? So basically, you have this film strip. That's what we really are experiencing. A series of images, not just vision, which is the metaphor, but everything over time. Smell, touch, your emotions, you feel hungry, you feel pain, way more than the six senses, every perception. Whatever the fundamental palette is, it's at least the six senses, but it's also more than that. There's the space in which it's like I'm feeling hunger. It's not a sound, it's not a image like a vision, but it's an image of hunger feeling. Not always the same, there's details to it. Right? We have one after the other, and it could be continuous or simulated this way, but we're thinking of it as one after the other, right? And one frame always leads to the next frame. Now, it feels like in a given frame that we have a choice. Should I go visit my mother in Detroit, or should I go on a beer tour of Northern California? And we make these decisions. That could be an illusion. The decision could be predetermined. And as far as we know, that could be the case because there's always one thing. We either do one or the other, never both. So there's an inherent impossibility of knowing whether it could have been something else just because it seemed like it could have been. But it's also possible that there were multiple possibilities and that one of the forces, one of the contributing factors and energies leading to one or another was the will. Yes, it means that will is somehow a fundamental force, just like people say, well, there has to be a homunculus pulling the cords then. No, that's another idea about will. Will could be an energy or a force or whatever you want to like, it's just field, whatever. There's all these ways of putting it, but just like gravity, it could be a fundamental element of the universe that some molecules, or maybe to some degree all molecules, that molecules can have in different forms based on the shape of the molecules, and then maybe in sets of molecules like a neuron, the interaction in there somehow could be expressing this, and you say, oh, but there'd have to be a homunculus deciding which lever to pull, and how could that not be, causal? Well, that's like saying with gravity, well, there has to be somebody making the gravity. No, the gravity just exists as a feature of mass and space, or whatever your gravity theory is. It exists. It's one of the fundamental forces. It could be that the will and the choice, yes, it wouldn't have to be the smallest atomic force, but it has to be a contribution of multiple forces or a primary force that results in choice not be an illusion. And now, why can we not just throw that idea out? Is because every one of those frames, I have discovered every single frame of I could be watching a view in Yosemite and I'm seeing the raw view, and it's so captivating. All I'm doing is looking at the imagery, feeling the breeze and smelling the air and listening to the birds cause their eagles as they fly over or whatever. Assuming there's eagles there, I forget. And I'm very much just taken in my senses. But I've discovered that really my brain and my interpretation, if I'm there with a dysfunctional relationship going on, or I'm not, that how I take that stuff. Now I found it's always positive, such views as that. And it can even feel more positive when you go there with a bad attitude. So it seems to have a power of its own and all that, and it's restorative and all of this. But I've discovered that I'm interpreting it, that a lot of its characteristics are from my interpretation. What I call myself is this thing that seems to be distorting and or interpreting correctly every single frame. I am present in every single frame from end to end of this thing. And saying that it's an illusion is, you have to tell me where the illusion comes from, because the illusion, what you're calling an illusion, would be our interpretation. Say that choices are real, that they happen. But the phenomena behind the illusion that I'm falsely interpreting and making an illusion, the phenomena is still there. It's like the sun rises. The fact that it's rising is an illusion. I'm actually the one moving on the surface of a planet. It's staying put, and I'm swinging into it, into the sunrise, sunset. Around the earth, there's a ring. The edge of the earth, it's sunrise and sunset the whole time. It's one ring. That ring doesn't really care which way it's spinning at either end. It's a ring. And when you have a lunar eclipse, by the way, the reason it gets red is because it's going through the ring. The sunset sunrise light is shining on the moon. And I'm swinging into it. And imagine if I was a creature that was only awake at sunrise, an hour and a half before sunrise, and an hour and a half after sunrise, and I went back to sleep. And then at sunset, an hour and a half. And so I had a 6-hour day, right? Yeah, 6-hour day, right around sunrise and sunset, because that's when I hunt or whatever. I'm some creature. And you tell me sunrise and sunset, those are illusions. That's the only time I'm awake or alive. It's in every one of my frames, and you're saying it's an illusion. So all you're really saying is, hey, I need a better explanation of that illusion than what I really have. Or maybe I don't need that explanation, but there is a better explanation. And I believe, yes, we need obviously a better explanation of the phenomena of choice, of choosing. But since it's in every frame, it's not something you can ignore. And the fact is, trying to put energy into making choices intelligently and making them rationally and well, if you're experimenting with this, if you're using choice to experiment, do I really have a choice? And you can say, I've got to catch 22. If you try to decide this one morning, decide that one morning, or roll a dice to decide something and take it out of your own personal decision, you're fooling yourself. There was still one result. But if you do any of those kind of mechanizations, what you'll find is that random things are spread out of a probability. And if you set yourself up to say, you know what, the next morning, I'm not going to eat cereal cold. I'm not going to eat Fruit Loops. I'm going to eat oatmeal. And you yourself this, and when you're falling asleep, you do willpower tricks like visualize yourself eating oatmeal in the morning. And then when you get up in the morning, instead of you're going straight for the bowl and you go, oh yeah, I was going to eat oatmeal. And you go, nah, too much trouble. 2 minutes is too much time. I'm going to eat this cereal and it's tastier. Or you say, yeah, I'm going to try it. Maybe you make the oatmeal, but while you're waiting for the oatmeal, you say, oh, quick bowl of cereal, and you don't eat the oatmeal. And then eventually you're eating the oatmeal. You do those experiments. It seems like exercising your willpower, exercising your choices as though they were real, takes you in the direction of the power of those choices. You start eating oatmeal and you've got fiber and you feel better or whatever. So those experiments and the fact that will and I, right? It's hard to define what I am. Everything in my system, the ontology is this film strip. Everything has to be defined within it. And I am not necessarily the homunculus that may or may not exist. I am not necessarily any particular entity. I am just the fact that I'm the thing that's in every one of these. This film strip is all associated with one thing. And what is that one thing? Me, my perspective. Whether I'm a brain in a matrix and that perspective is the result of that relationship to the matrix computer, whether I am a neural network in a mechanical universe, and that's what my experiences result from, whether I'm in the dream of a goddess and I'm in her subconscious, whichever, I'm the thing that's in this whole, my perspective in any of those environments, that is in every frame of this, and that defines me. You can't subtract it, and if you try to play with over time, have an influence in your choice, and you take choice seriously, that it really is a choice, you will find that you get more power over your choice making. You can prepare yourself within these bounded regions of whatever your tendencies are. You can prepare yourself to have more success. If choice is an illusion, well, you'll have the illusion of getting a stronger and stronger willpower, or not necessarily a stronger willpower as if that was a general thing, but in that one area of eating oatmeal more in the morning, you will find you succeed at doing that. Right? So if you want to say, the sunrise and sunset are illusions, the earth is spinning, you have to give that amount of detail. Why does it seem like we have choices when we don't? Because a lot of things, complicated things, waterfalls and clouds, it can even look like if you're out to the sea that the storm is deciding to come in, or the storm is angry. You can have all of these kinds of faces in the clouds, illusions, things I would think are illusions, right? But you don't believe that the waterfall or the river is choosing which way to go, right? It has to go that way, but it bounces around with some randomness, but it has to, it's taking the gradient of the surface of the earth down. I believe that too. But do you think that inside the river, there's the idea of, I'm deciding to do this? No, why would a river have to have this illusion? So what would be the generator of this illusion exactly? That's what you have to explain when you're saying will is an illusion, I don't really exist. I, the phenomena, just like sunrise, the phenomena exists. The sun isn't really rising. Our name for it shows our ancient folk idea of it, because it looks like it's rising, but we can explain that's geometric relativity. So good on us. So where's the geometric relativity between I feel like I'm having choices, if I exercise those choices, I seem to have, the effect of getting better at making the particular choice I'm exercising at. And a river, which is not going to have generated an illusion of deciding which way to go downhill. Nobody that makes this argument that we're just a rolling phenomena, just a chain reaction that has, for some reason, the illusion of an internal theater and decision making. Nobody that says that says the waterfall also has one of those false internal experiences, right? That's actually the more mystical idea, is that a rock sitting there in its head is like, well, I'm deciding to sit here. I'm going to sit here this way. I'm going to sit here that way. Why? It wouldn't have that illusion. Why would a phenomenon need that illusion? The fact that we have this internal theater itself is evidence of some sort of physical reality, that chemicals can have that experience. That's a bounding condition. It's possible for a chemical to have that experience if we think we're chemicals in a mechanical world, because we know we're having that experience. Why? Because the experience is the primary thing. We don't know that we're chemicals versus bits versus dream stuff. Calling it chemicals is really just, hey, the physical phenomena, the so-called physical phenomena, are so consistent. We have this idea of a consistent world, this mechanical world, and within that world is us. And me, I'm from my point of view in the universe, from my location in my systematic nature in this universe, and the power of will is one of the phenomena that's happening in my location. And it could be like the sunrise, that it's not the power of choice, but really something else. But what? What could it be? You have to explain that. When you explain that to the creature that's only awake at sunrise, that sunrise is an illusion because the earth is spinning around, then it'll say, oh, I'm only awake right when the earth, when my part of the earth is spinning around, into the sunrise. Illusion solved, right? Hey, Republic of Sandals, nice talking to you. I'm doing good. Jeff Mears said, question mark. Yeah, Republic of Sandals, I'm doing good. You should make a video and put the link in my comments since there's no reply system. How you been doing? Have you just been not talking to me, or you been off YouTube? Those are questions for the video because I don't even know when you said that. And just, I'd like to check at the end. All right, so I'm going to be putting up more and more banners, obviously, for social justice, but I'm an economic justice warrior. Get ready to deal with that, Quintica types. You're also one, supposedly. How are you going to deal? This Puro Live. Thorium energy. Yeah, kind of nuclear fuel. Savior of the world. This right here, this one thing, could make us so rich in energy that there is no justification for war anymore that the people would have to take seriously. I'm going to put up some other banners, ranked choice voting, other things, and get the political, philosophically political NASCAR vibe going. Film strip.